Good day to you, good evening really. Today I thought I will give you a little COVID uptake and get on to another topic about fathers at home, fathers at school, fathers in professions, fathers at work, fathers in a nation. To get you to understand, there's quite a lot of animosity in the West about China. But China is not only China's government, China is China's people. Now a second wave is reported from China, COVID second wave. It was predicted that it will come to to Africa, that it will happen in UK, but UK the cases are coming down. And then suddenly China says they have got the second wave. Now then, if they also say we have got the vaccine, and they say we have tested the vaccine and vaccine is working, and if the Global Health Agency begins to spread the vaccine around, then it becomes quite a story. Now, China has also said they think this second round of COVID infection is from a virus before the first virus, that its origin is before the first virus and must have come from salmon in Norway. So I have quipped that the salmon, the capitalist salmon of Norway and the socialist bats of Wuhan have made a joint front, and they are protesting that humans are fathering on them what humans have done. So the basis of the first wave and the basis of the second wave, and incontrovertible evidence that the vaccine is molecular tooled, made with molecular tools. So one waits with, what should I say, concern what other things will be said, that so that all the global citizenry will have to get the vaccine. Famous French Italian Professor Bassett says his analysis is the virulence of the vaccine is going down, vaccine will die off. That's his analysis. So be that as it may, we are coming to the topic of about, I meant to do it in our language also. ඉතින් මේ චීනේ මෙහෙම vaccine එකක් හදනවා කියලා මේ කාරණාව යනවා. But we want to get on the topic about this. What are fathers doing and who are fathers? Now this is what I want to read, that there are about to come a time, a generation, a time when a generation will curse their father and will not bless their mother. So we are in a generation now, at least the 20-year-olds, 15-year-olds, and even the millennial generations came up with fathers being unpopular, home being father fractured, and more mother nurtured. Now we know the two of them have to do this together, but it so happened home became more and more mother nurtured and less father nurtured. So the situation is that a generation has arisen, they don't recognize fathers. Commensurately or in parallel, fathers have abdicated the home and chosen their work field to be the place of their great enterprise and devotion and zeal. So this is topsy-turvy, because your greatest work in life is to get the work at home done. If the family does well, society does well, nations do well, and work will do well. When the family is fractured with different issues, fatherhood has failed. Now, besides the individual father, the world's forces are the global forces. Now, I have done this before. I have told you about the global culture and the family culture. World designed for a family culture has now undergone a drastic adjustment or a distortion, that it is now not serving a family purpose but serving the global enterprise purpose. So home becomes a guinea pig of every product. Then man and woman becomes the guinea pig of all kinds of products, the good, the bad, the ugly. So this is why this particular document says a time will come when father would be, this curse is an old word, it's a nasty word, but in the original language context it means father will be diminished. Now the fact is that father himself diminished himself because he might have become a workaholic, he may be career conscious, and he shifts his theatre of excellence to work, career, medals, acceptance, and the perks, and sometimes not so good perks. Many trips abroad to dubious entertainment. Many corporates foster this. Corporate style was anti-family. However, for some length of time, mother kept home going. Let's say between 1970 to 1985, at least in Asian countries, mother kept home going. But then it came, both mother and father are not at home. So even mother came to be diminished. So there was also mother fracture. And in our own country, I am Dr. Lalith Mendis from Sri Lanka. My last substantive post was as head of Department of Oncology in the medical faculty. So I started with COVID. I will probably shift a little more to the recovery trial of UK, how it went, which is my pharmacological background. But I want to get some essentials through about fathers and mothers of nations, the patriarchal, matriarchal figure. If they diminish, what happens to family, what happens to education, what happens to professions, what happens to work, what happens to nations. So this idea of old word curse means diminished. So from the father's side, he thought his place of achievement is not home. His place of achievement is out there in sports and work and whatnot. Even at the end of work, he has so many other meetings, societal meetings, social meetings, gym and whatnot. So he comes home by 7:38, very fulfilled, he thinks, but abdicating his primary role of nurturing the next generation. Nurturing the next generation, the second level, so to say, people are very conscious at work. They're all the time putting a lot of effort and, seminars and work seminars, trips abroad, and, resource people come. But Dad, what are you doing at your home to nurture the next generation, which is your son and daughter? I'm not quipping. I'm asking you, what are you doing in your own home? So when you diminish at home and in your son's life or in your daughter's life, then they begin to also reciprocally diminish the contribution and the consideration, respect they have for the dad figure. So here, a second feature I will get on to is, there is a generation who is pure in their own eyes and not washed from their filthiness. That is to say, a generation arose driven on consumerism. John Maynard Keynes, he first proposed it in 1948. It was adopted in serious application in 1970. He said, drive the demand and the supply will increase, and world and nations will be in everlasting positive growth. Economies will grow and grow and grow. Employment will increase. Good in theory, but what happened was, in 40 years, we consumed what we have had for 400 years. What more, we consumed at such a rate, ecosystems went bankrupt. For example, our corals in the ocean, our real oxygen lungs, and also our kidney of the globe, if you want to think of a kidney for the globe, because the corals maintain acid-base balance, and our corals world over are down to 40%. Now in the human body, if kidney is down to 33%, that is to say, if you lose one kidney and other kidney comes down to 2/3 of its function, you are down to 33% of kidney function. That would be renal failure. Kidney is not enough. So what will happen if the corals come down to 33% in the world? The world's pH will go haywire. All plant systems, all animal systems, all enzymes basically depend on the pH value, the acid-base balance. Besides that, our ocean bed has enormous vegetation, mountains taller than Everest, and lots of small vegetation that really produce more than 65% of world's oxygen is produced in the ocean, not on the surface. So while global warming is true, this drivenness about controlling globe's temperature now and the carbon print thing, trying to stop fossil fuels now, is a lost cause. Not only that, it's a fraudulent cause. That is trying to get sovereign nations carbon printed, pay a debt and all that, fine sovereign nations, so that because our consumption on the surface soil or what we do with our trees is important, but it is far more important what we do with our oceans, because most of, as I said, 65% of oxygen and all our acid-base balance comes from the bed of the ocean. And we have already destroyed it with lots of tankers, ocean dumping every season. Tons and tons of clothing gets dumped in the ocean. That's how consumerism was driven at a furious rate. We ate as much as we can, and a generation arose, anything was a consumable product, therefore marketable product. So body, human body, female figure, then the male figure, then children, pedophilia, it's an endless, nauseous lot. Not only that, even the aborted fetus became a marketable product for what they call research. Even for perfumes, aborted fetuses were used. So by artificial insemination, fetuses were made by cloning and so on, and they were nurtured in surrogate pregnancies only for the purpose of harvesting abortuses, harvesting fetuses for research, they said. Now, in US, research with stem cell was stopped by George Bush, again begun by Obama, and again stopped by President Trump. So these are some of the background things, how we became a generation that consumed any and everything. So you know what has happened to sex. Nothing is too sacred, no stop back, no age at which to start it. Then we developed the HPV virus. What for? When young girls, before the age of 18, when their vagina has not got a squamous cell epithelium, I think it's a God design, before 18, there's no protective layer, and they get human papilloma virus by premature sex. So the right advice is, please don't get into premature sex. But that's not how science thinks. Science thinks, let's make a vaccine. So they make the human papilloma virus, and then Gardasil becomes the vaccine. Now they are reporting deaths with that vaccine. But about 14, 15 years ago, vaccine makers were made immune. Whatever happened with the vaccine, they are not liable for being sued. So you can see there's a system that works. Now see how it goes. Consume anything. What did it say? There is a generation who is pure in their eyes, and they're not washed from their filthiness. They consume as much as they want, and they consume anything they want. This is a sad state. On this note, I want to get to China again. So most brands of USA, brand owners, prefer to manufacture their brands in China, because cost of production is so low, no labor laws, no pollution laws. So major Chinese cities are so polluted, people live with closed windows in the apartment, importing air from Canada, just plain air and with closed windows, because China has been used and abused by the West. We have to say that, to produce for the consumerism gospel that West has got used to. The end result of consuming as you can, as if the world is everlasting. and with no thought of the next generation. This is why fathers matter, of course mothers matter. The next so a generation arose who became more rapacious than their parents. So China became the guinea pig, China became the happy hunting ground, China became the praying ground. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not a communist, I'm not a Marxist, I'm just giving you how it happened over the last 40 years, how it happened. It's a sad story. So Chinese people are abused without any labor laws. Chinese environment and ecology is absorbed. And in China you get loads of kids who have undergone operations and their organs are missing. Where there's a flourishing, horribly flourishing organ trade. And lots of other Westerners and other countries go to China to get their organ transplant. So the system earns from the organs of children. So this is a sad, sad world. And so, why am I so strong on fathers? I personally believe a very loving father designed this system of family. Consider it. With great love, two people come together and they produce a child. And child from the mother's womb knows the mother's voice. And any other voice that comes from the child. Child hears in the mother's womb, feels in the mother's womb. Now recently, the Prime Minister of New Zealand was so praised for her control of COVID. In actual fact, Sri Lankan figures are better than New Zealand, but that's okay. They did well with COVID and we did well with COVID, and we are very grateful to our government. As the COVID issue was coming to an end, the Prime Minister announces up to birth abortion bill. No other country has that. So even on the 40th week, day before the birth, you can murder the child. What horrible thing is this, isn't it? The consumerist thing. Population is the problem, humans are the biohazard, and therefore whatever means by which you stop population, reduce population, is scientific. What a tragic state, isn't it? So she who was so praised for controlling COVID in her nation, within the week, she's up to killing babies, even babies to be born tomorrow. No other nation has that law. It's tragic. So the second thing about how China has been ravaged, and now those who earn from China, the wealth is not in the hands of the Chinese people. Those who earn from China do not want those industries to shift back to US, because President Trump wants manufacture to return to US. He did it on an economic policy. Now of course there's a dire need, because most US medicines, even the very needy antibiotics, are produced in China. You can understand if a trade war comes, trade war is already on, things get nasty. If US does not get its antibiotics, how people will suffer. So my point is not that today. My point is, so when American entrepreneurs who produce brands for the world are asked to get back to US, they will not do that. Now President Trump is a businessman who got rich in China. Rich in US. His interests are in US, and there are some others whose interests are in US. So they are nation conscious. I'm not defending any political position. I'm only saying the fact. I'm beginning with father in the family, father in education, father in professions, father in work, father in the nation. Now you will realize that all these fatherhoods are terribly eroded. How many families has a functioning father at home? Isn't it? Single mothers, single parents. In US it's more than 50% single parents. Then education, you know, we respect our teachers. Each day we get up and we say sir, and you know. What is education like today? Education is marketable. Education is sold. And all kinds of courses are sold with no reference to aptitude. Education is big money. And the Western nations keep earning money from kids from poorer nations going to Western nations for the elusive utopia. This is not social justice. So I want to repeat, I'm not a Marxist. I'm just a middle-of-center guy. I have no Marxist leanings. But there is a father who designed things fair and square for every nation. So when the Western nations have been earning from the hard-earned money, and the Asian nations, and perhaps African nations and South American nations, we are losing our next generation. We can't father them. They are not at home. They have gone looking for that elusive, expensive educational opportunity, and often after that education opportunity, they don't get job opportunities in their new country. Australia, for instance, is very quick to give a student visa. We have no problem. But these students and their parents think once they have spent 1 million rupees, that's about 10,000 US, a little less than 10,000 US, when they go over there, they will automatically get PR. It doesn't happen. I have met so many students there. I'm on the topic of consumerism and the nations selling out. They are best the next generation. So there's a generation unfathered. An educational system has got adjusted for profit with no reference to what kind of graduate you are producing. So we have constantly advised parents who come to us. I do Empathic Learning Center. It has to do with digital screen and also how the brain tracks form. This has been part of my research for the last 7 years. I have published original stuff, how the pixel screen affects the brain and shift the child from top-down thinking regulation to bottom-up do and see regulation. So from our prefrontal cortex, we must do top-down thinking regulation, initiation, navigation, successful in conclusion, well done, reward. Who says well done, reward? The child himself, the one who's studying, says, I have achieved my target. When you put the child on the digital screen, too much of it, what happens is they leave the top-down cortical, prefrontal cortex, executive empathic pathways, and they go thrill-seeking, peril, bottom-up regulation, going through the amygdala, stimulated by everything that comes from outside, because their primary source of stimulation was digital games and the screen. So the screen is smart, and the fellow in front of the screen is becoming a robot. Screen says, he does. And he thinks he's brilliant, he's becoming stupid. That's what the screen does. You're not thinking anymore for yourself. You get into reflexive, reactive behavior. And in fact, that child is all the time angry. That child operates in the fright, flight, fight mode. His cortisol is always high. Immunity is always low. Such children also get severe COVID infection. Yes. Because cortisol works against vitamin D, that's biochemistry in the body. So if you give too much of steroids, prednisolone, cortisol, and that gets stirred up when the child is on the screen with fast games and fast cartoon, you get a generation of kids who are low in immunity, and when they get COVID, they react bad. That's by the way. I want to get to my primary topic of when father is not at home, home goes wrong, education goes wrong, then in work, what happens is when you are too much on the screen, between 14 and 17, you can't do any proper curriculum properly. By 17, you don't know what you would do. Then you get into different tertiary courses, parents pay for it, and the young fellow keeps saying, I don't like this, dad, I don't like that, that fellow can't teach. The institution is wrong. So always someone else is wrong. And by 24, he or she has done so many courses and curricula, they don't know what they were designed for. So it is very important for mom and dad to get the children's tracks to be laid properly before the age of 13. Then by 14, they are on a track, a design track. I would say a God-designed track. And they choose the subjects they ought to be doing, and they get into the curriculum and the work field they were inwardly designed for. Some become doctors, some become lawyers, some become teachers, some are quite happy to be housewives, some become artists, musicians, whatever it is, entrepreneurs. The speculative field of knowing where to invest your money, which field will become prosperous. There's a speculative sense which also can be developed. Of course, doctors can't be speculative. They must precisely prescribe what has to be prescribed. Yes. So doctors should not try to be entrepreneurs. It's not a good combination. So that's why. So by the time you are 24, You have gone through the curriculum, you have gone through your tertiary training, you are in the work field, so you are meeting fathers in the work field. But the young fellow who is switching from job to job, curriculum from curriculum, he's not getting fathered in anything. He's an orphan. Though he may be from a well-to-do home, well cared for home, parents did not take cognizance of what the screen is doing to him. So what did the screen do to him? He became an adventurer. He went off executive, empathic, top-down regulation into bottom-up, amygdala-based peril, thrill, try and see. So they are all the time looking for color and sensation and experiences that come from outside. Initiate, navigate, successful in conclusion, well done. That track is not in them. That's the track of salience and satiety. That's how God designed us. So what happens for a love affair? Just try and see for the few days, and with one is going, you do another one. So they never get into marital fidelity also. Your marital fidelity is initiate at the right time, navigate carefully, find each other's commonness, no experiments, and then successful in conclusion is on marriage day. And then you look back lifelong and say, well done to each other. All that is lost. Don't you think there is a design that the screen has so invaded from home, invaded family, developed a sexual culture that is completely anti-family, anti-person, completely selfie and narcissistic? Agreed? If you think a little, come off the treadmill of modern existence. That's what COVID did. Got us off the treadmill of modern existence. Have we got sober? Have we got wiser? Or will we return to the same stuff? Sober question to ask. So I was on the topic of that China is being ravaged, China is being abused by the brand owners, and the communist government is happy for it. People are miserable. Few get rich and richer and richer. So the brand owners produce for the world, and China is cheaper to produce for the world, no labor laws, no environmental laws. So those Americans who own the brands do not want to return to America. So their public enemy number one is a president who says, be American based. So they will use anything to depose that president. It may be Black Lives Matter. Of course, Black Lives Matter. And America has to deal with the problem of the police brutality. No doubt about that. But if you can't see that that slogan is only a means to an end, you have to see that, isn't it? And then it erupts in UK. And then mass migration is engineered in the Middle East with wars. Who does it? Obama does it. ISIS is created. And every Middle Eastern country is destabilized other than Israel. And all the people, I mean millions are moved, and Europe accepts them, most nations very kindly, and Germany particularly with great, I have seen how well Germany looked after the immigrants as they arrived. They made excellent houses, the German social system worked, and many conservative Germans felt this looks like a bad experiment. But then at that time, Angela Merkel was going to be the matriarch of the world. She heard a strange voice, just what is Germany? Germany is just only one country. Look after Europe. That's not enough. You are the best head of state ever in any country. Look after the whole world. So she sacrifices her own nation's stability and invites so many migrants. What are they doing today? They are on the streets looting. Black Lives Matter? Hardly. They are looting, burning the same migrants who got the best of Germany. So it's obviously orchestrated, isn't it? It is orchestrated. So you in your nation and I in my nation, we have to attend on our historic ills, reconcile rifts, heal the bruises. We have to, in our own nation, we had a huge problem between the majority Sinhalese, to which I belong, and the minority Tamils. We thank God the war stopped, but we have much work on our hands. We are working all the time with our government to tell them how they have to look after the injustices that war perpetrated. And I have been there endless times setting up things that will work for the minority people who were hurt. So locals must attend on the historic ills of their nation. But this cosmetic surgery of falling down on your knee and then you start burning a city, removing statues, more you accede to this kind of superficial stuff, more violence you breed, because it's an agenda to break down sovereign nations, remove heads of states, decapitate them, make them pug ugly, make them a bad smell. So you remove the few remaining fathers, and who is waiting to come in there? Rebels. Understand the strategy? So you in your nation, you will have to work for it, and I in my nation will have to work for it, to look for fathers, for family, education, work, professions, nations. So at that point, I come to the recovery trial, looking for fathers in professions. So many cast a lot of hope on the recovery trial, and this came after Lancet Gate. What is Lancet Gate? The Lancet Journal, which was the first journal we run to in our SLMA library to check out what has come out. Lancet has been publishing political articles, social health, mental health, even environmental health. And the chief editor of Lancet, Richard Horton, is found on Chinese television very, very frequently. Yes, I think you may be knowing this. You can just Google and find out anyway. So he publishes an article with all the gold standard. What that? Random selected, random control, blind, double blind, patient does not know, observer does not know, then all the right stuff, multi-center, and that comes from 96,000 database, and Lancet says it's peer-reviewed, gold standard, because Professor Raoult, when he kept proving pharmacologically, hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin has a pharmacodynamics that kills the virus. That's true. And he proved it by treating 4,000 patients with azithromycin and hydroxychloroquine, and their cure rate is 92%. In his hospital, death rate is less than 6%. UK, death rate in ventilator care, 41%. Death rate in the recovery trial in the control group, 23.4%. The professors around the world asked Oxford, what did you do with your patients? That ventilated patients, 41% died. And that is almost one left, one died. It's such a high percentage of death. And the control group also had 23% of death. So then comes the news out. Recovery trial stops hydroxychloroquine because it was designed to prove hydroxychloroquine not effective. Then big data, one investigator is involved in big data, funded by Gilead. And Gilead is the company that is manufacturing remdesivir, the competing drug. Cost of hydroxychloroquine for a patient is maybe $1, let me see, maximally $3–4. Remdesivir, one course, $2,500, and they are promoting that. You can see what pharmaceuticals do, isn't it? But when nations get involved in this, so the recovery trial drops hydroxychloroquine, and then reports keep reporting the underlying connections, and we trust Oxford, don't we? When you say Oxford, gold standard. But now it is all topsy-turvy. Why? We have lost our fathers in our professions. We have got ideologues, they are working on ideology, they are working on their convinced politics. What is the convinced politics? Nations are no good, disrupt nations. Family is no good, disrupt family. Cook the education, and the politics they work with is we have to set up a supranational, transnational, elite body that will know exactly how to run nations, and if population is a problem, administer vaccines to control population. Today I can't do that. I have done it partly in my last talk. I'll do a full session on how vaccines are used to control population. Already it has happened in Kenya. that particular organization said we are vaccinating in certain area pregnant mothers with tetanus toxoid. Every pregnant mother has to get a tetanus toxoid. 14,000 pregnant mothers given tetanus toxoid, 14,000 sterile. No more babies after that. It was supposed to be a tetanus toxoid vaccine. The best vaccine ever is tetanus toxoid, next to Prof. Sabin's oral polio vaccine. Prof. Sabin was a God-fearing man. He didn't charge anything for his vaccine. He made it freely available. So this is not against vaccine. Triple vaccine, excellent vaccine. Every country that got the BCG vaccine, COVID deaths were minimal. Our country, we have the BCG vaccine. We treated our patients with hydroxychloroquine. 22 million population, we had only 11 deaths. We had only 11 deaths. So that's how good our health system was, and of course we use hydroxychloroquine. So this issue of recovery trial being fixed to decry hydroxychloroquine, promote remdesivir, and then they say remdesivir is too expensive, so we must have the vaccine. So when and now, before the vaccine trial is over, AstraZeneca is manufacturing 40 million doses of vaccine before the trial is over. And then on the wake of it, China reports a second wave has come from where? From salmon that came from Norway. How long ago? Before the other one. So all the salmon of Norway and all the bats of Wuhan have got together and made a front and protesting to the ICJ, saying we are being accused wrong by humans for what they did. They are putting it on us. So gain on function never happens with mutation. Gain on function happens in laboratories. In 2014, CDC and Dr. Fauci shifted their gain on function virus research to Wuhan with a grant of $7 million. And money speaks. Even among university academics, money speaks. Why did they transfer? Because Johns Hopkins and Harvard virologists said, stop this is dangerous. One day you will create a monster that cannot be stopped, and they did that. And it leaked in Wuhan. If China was in error, it was when they did not report that the human-to-human transmission is going on. Satellite pictures show that, images show that from 2019 November, Wuhan hospitals were overcrowded, and the statistics show that that province had 1.3 million influenza patients in December 2019, whereas 2018 December, they had only 135,000 influenza patients. So a tenfold increase. So obviously they said influenza for COVID infection. So that's a quick recent history of COVID infection was spreading all over China. They had closed down Hubei province, but there were daily flights from Wuhan to Italy. We are northern Italy, the whole leather industry is in the hands of Chinese entrepreneurs. Everybody knows it. So there's no more doubt that that virus was created with molecular tools. Professor Luc Montagnier, the professor who described the HIV virus and got the Nobel Prize for it, he has categorically said, anyone knowing virology can know that, because the nucleotide sequence of the bat coronavirus has been split at the point enzymes are used to split it in a laboratory. It's called a molecular tool, genetic engineering, and a little bit of the HIV virus has been fixed there, so that new nucleotide sequence manufactured in the laboratory caused a coronavirus with a spike who can get into the human cells 20 times more than the last CoV1. So this is not CoV1, this is entirely new virus. Pathogenesis is completely different. So I took a long time on this thing of consumerism, how China's system is abusing China's people. So all our sympathies are with China's people, and the Western entrepreneurs who make their brands in China, they want it to go on and on. They'll do anything, support Black Lives or anything to topple a president who says, make your stuff in your own country. So there is an intelligentsia, a new left intelligentsia, quite narcissistic, and they are working to make nations fail, make the health of nations fail, make the economies of nations fail. So they are predators, they are pharaohs, they are not fathers. That's where the world has come with science. That's where the world has come with survival of the fittest. So I have written a document which is available for PDF, downloading free. Soon a little booklet will be out. I have called it the March of History. It gives a quick preview of last 4 months, the COVID issue, virus, epidemiology, in a way a layman can understand. Of course, even a doctor will benefit from it. It's available as a free download PDF from our website. Our WhatsApp number is +94 77 49 59 214. If you send me a WhatsApp message, we can send you the download. If not, you can go to my blog, Dr. Lalith Mendis blog. All the articles are there, drlalithmendisblog.wordpress.com. Very quickly, the next 5 I'll go through quickly. This was the main point for today. Let me go through quickly. There is a generation who are lofty, their eyes are lofty, their eyelids are raised in arrogance. So there's a generation that was produced by the digital screen. They always ask for the impossible, for more, what parents couldn't provide. So they are not satisfied with anything. It is digitally driven also. Because dopamine says do, get, and serotonin says, well done, now enough, check back. So when they are on the digital screen, dopamine keeps going up, and the dopamine receptor shifts from physiological to addictive. So serotonin can't work. So they are on the mode of get me this, get me that, no, this shoe is not good enough, I want the branded stuff. So you got a generation of kids who are digitally driven, neuronally and neurochemically driven, to always ask for the next thing and keep going at the same thing without knowing the time and so on. In their eyes and in their language, in their thinking, there's nothing called right and wrong, but there's everything called get some more. So now I'm not criticizing kids, that's what the system has done, that's what the screen has done. So in our Empathic Learning Center, we handle them. I do consultations free of charge any Friday. Write to the same WhatsApp number and book an appointment. And we have an Empathic Motor Therapy Center, one of its kind. We innovated that. I have presented this academic material to the SLMA annual sessions last year, and Harvard School also has got on to the same therapy method. They call it Fit Kids. We call it empathic motor therapy. We started it 7 years ago. Harvard has started it now 2 years ago. So there is a kind of there's a generation whose teeth are like swords, whose jaw teeth are like knives. That means they're very rude, reckless, very nasty. They are very nasty with their words. So that generation has come. It's partly emulating the cartoons. They always work to remove any sense of reverence, any sense of respect out of life. That's what cartoons work for. They are designed to invade home. So I have 5 laws about cartoons, but I have 2 talks before this on online and digital stuff. Please get into it and see. It's on my wall on Facebook also. So let me finish my talk today as far as quickly as possible. Then they devour the poor from the earth, needy from among men. So the system is geared to eliminate the undesirable. You can see that eugenics is coming, population control is coming. So the elite have decided who should live, who should live. So abortion and also the LGBTQ strong agenda, destroying family, working against family, all works to Marie Stopes and whatnot, isn't it? All are working to reduce population, because they say humans are the biohazard. That was actually used in a recent conference in New York City about how to start schools. They said no need to start school. Yeah, just do it online. That's how the globalists would move. We know human beings need to eat. Yeah. So the next one, Leach has 2 daughters who always say give, 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 never satisfied. These are characteristics of a human generation that has come to be. Very well described, and the scientific processes, sociological processes that have underscored this development I have explained to you. So where is the vaccine going? My sense is China will say second wave gave us enough patients to try on. So there's no way to check their second wave. They're doing all the effects of a second wave. Of course, it's so obliging, these meat markets, they are saying second one also came from a meat market, only thing from salmon from Norway. And now the WHO will go on to get into it and say yes. And the vaccine will also, Shanghai said now about 3 weeks ago, we are 99% sure a vaccine will come. Now when any place says 99% sure, you don't get scientific veracity like that. The best vaccine, tetanus toxoid, is about 90% sure. So when Shanghai says we are 99% sure a vaccine will come, COVID-1, SARS, never had a vaccine. It came and it went away. HIV never had a vaccine. So RNA viruses that are manufactured by man with very little protein and whatnot outside, it's very difficult to get immunity with a vaccine. That is immunological, virological conclusion. Many professors around the world are saying this. You know, we in our time were trained in many disciplines together. Now the disciplines are more specific, so you get specialists. There are advantages in it, there are disadvantages in it also. The vaccine story is there. So before the trials are over, AstraZeneca is producing 40 million vaccine doses. So we know it's a done deal. And then a chip is waiting. Why, what's the problem? Chip is waiting, where every country has a different strain of vaccine. So every strain must be in the multivalent vaccine. One word about multivalent vaccines. Body needs immune memory for every foreign genome it encounters. I'll repeat it and explain it in layman language. Body needs time for immune memory. Cellular immunity has to work and record immune memory. Naturally, body needs one virus at a time, one bacterium at a time. When you have a pentavalent vaccine, different strains and changing nucleotides, body goes into a bit of a cytokine spin. Body gets into an immune inflammatory cascade, and that consumes special pro-resolver molecules of your natural immunity geared up by vitamin D. Vitamin D is very helpful for the SPMs. When so many vaccines are given, particularly when pentavalent vaccines are given with adjuvants, it is designed to set your immune system out of trained immunity. You are already in adaptive immunity before you face COVID. Got it? Your immune system is already fighting, and COVID comes, you go into cytokine storm. That's what happened. All the countries who are taking pentavalent vaccines went into severe COVID infection. Think it out, see it through, whether I am saying the truth or not. I am repeating. So basically the medical profession should say multivalent vaccine should be a no-no. Obvious basic immunology. Why? Body needs to receive a foreign nucleotide, I repeat it, foreign nucleotide one at a time. Then the T cells get into memory, and the innate memory is primed and tuned, and macrophages are ready to become killer cells. That's trained memory. That's what BCG does. BCG trains the trained memory to wait ready, it's innate memory, working on cellular immunity. You give pentavalent vaccines, that system is bypassed or provoked into already getting into the interleukin cascade. Then you're already in adaptive immunity. When the infection comes, you react too much, you go into cytokine storm, and you have all the consequences that you had in the COVID infection. So that was quite a bit of involved explanation. I can see some of the doctors I have worked with are here. You may understand. Pardon me if you're lay, if I said too much, but my main theme was we need fathers in the home. Never abdicate your home. You are making the next generation at home. Father, you may be very successful in your workplace or university, but if you did make the next generation at home, nation will suffer, world will suffer, you will suffer, professions will suffer, education will suffer. Finally, I conclude, you need fathers at home, fathers at education, fathers at work, fathers at professions, fathers in the nation. And I am suggesting to you, this is the design of the Heavenly Father, that prayer, Our Father who is in heaven. It also has, give us this day our daily bread. So that daily bread should include health not invaded by vaccines, viruses, man is making to invade your health. So we have been selling sex, we have been selling children, a flesh trade, we have been selling whatever can be sold. Now they want to make our health invaded and market whatever they can market. This is where science has taken us. So I return to the topic, we need something more than man's brain. We need something called the heart and spirit of man to give him a balance of life is not always about profit. Blaise Pascal said, heart has reasons of which head knows nothing. We are fathers, isn't it? We are the 60 generations. We rose to prominence, eminence, visibility and audibility more than our fathers. Correct? Yes. What's the word we have handed down to the 40s? What are the attitudes of the 40s? What are the attitudes of the 30-year-olds? The 7 attitudes I mentioned, a generation that has diminished fatherhood, motherhood, family, home, having children. And subsequently education suffers, eventually, consequently, education suffers, work suffers, profession suffers, nations suffer. Thank you for listening. We'll meet again.